Well then, good morning everybody. Sam at United People's TV, and yeah, tonight has some big game energy, but not the reason that we want it to be big game energy. I think that's the way I would probably describe the feeling going into the calm before the storm. I don't like to ever be considered somebody who enjoys a bit of doom mongering. All right, but the reality is tonight is a big game for Man United. I'm going to run through everything in the build up to the game. All the comments from Porto's manager, Erik Ten Hag, ahead of the game in the press conference, the team news, the travelling squad, my starting 11, your predictions. There's a poll on here. And by the way, can I quickly say apologies to anybody who should be watching me on Facebook, but decidedly this morning, it didn't fancy working on Facebook. So if you're watching on Facebook, well, you're not. That's the point. So make sure you come across to YouTube. I know I'm just kind of speaking to air. It's just... How many times have we been here over these last few years? Oh, Man United need a response. Man United need a response. And invariably, a lot of the times, there's been a response. But we haven't developed on that. And we've gone round that circle again. And here we are. And it's, to go back to Andy Mitten's article saying that patience sort of turns into desperation. Kind of feels a bit like that today. Now, I'm going to run through everything. You please fire in your comments and your questions. Get your poll. Get your answer in the poll. Answer in the poll. Who do you think will win tonight? What do you think the result will be? Get your answers in. All right. My head is gone this morning, clearly. Anyway, who's here from the mod and the member gang? Good morning to you, Akash. Good morning to you, Stephanie. We've got Craig, Pyro, Liam, Monkton T and Carl. How you doing there? JC, how you doing, buddy? James Maycox. And lots more of you tuning in, as always. Let's get into the news, all right? Let's get into it. Anybody watch the game last night? Aston Villa looked good. Fair play to what Unai Emery has done with Aston Villa. Fair play to their recruitment. You just see just the whole club completely connected up. And remember that Unai Emery's stock. I mean, Unai Emery's always had pedigree, but Arsenal fans will make you believe that he is an absolutely god-awful manager. Which just isn't the case. But John Duran yesterday, we're now going to Villa Park off the back of their biggest result in 41 years, I think, since they were last in the European Cup, and they deserved that win. It was a very, very disciplined performance, defensive performance. It wasn't that they were just hitting on the counter attack; it's just they were quite clinical when they moved through the lines. Very, very good performance from Aston Villa, and as I said, all credit to what Unai Emery has done. What I will say about Unai Emery, and I've said about Arteta, don't compare apples and oranges. People are like, oh, look what Unai Emery has done. Why can't Erik Ten Hag have done that? Oh, look what Maresca has done. Why can't Erik Ten Hag do that? I think the closest you can get to a conversation around that is probably slot Liverpool in terms of the expectations that are on the club. But congratulations to what Villa are doing, and I'm not looking forward to that game on Sunday, I'll be totally honest. We won there last season 2-1. Was it McTominay with the winner? But yeah, United, well, let's see how wounded United are going to Villa Park. Abner, I agree with your comment down there. One thing that's striking about Villa's recruitment is physicality. United, it feels like a strong wind could blow over half the squad still. It's mad. Anyway, yesterday, somebody who also impressed, and there's going to be a lot of angry fans about this, is Alvaro Fernandez for Benfica. Benfica won 4-0, I think it was, against Atletico Madrid. Really good performance from them. And it was a really solid performance from Alvaro. And the Alvaro Fernandez situation is one that a lot of United fans are still probably a bit angry about in terms of how that was handled. I'm trying to cast my mind back to exactly what happened. Onana did go off, I think, in the 60th minute against Bayern Munich. I don't know whether he was injured or not. I think he might have been holding his hamstring. We'll see. Anyway, they've got a good squad regardless of Onana. But Alvaro Fernandez, if I remember correctly, it was in that last January, where Man United signed Reguilon on loan, I think, and Alvaro Fernandez was sent out on loan to Granada. Is that what happened? I think that's what happened. Didn't play that often at Granada. Played some games, but we had Reguilon. Or was it no? Was it the other way around? Was that what happened? I can't actually remember. Can someone tell me? No, because Reguilon wasn't here for the second half of the season, was he? He left in January. And actually, I'll tell you what it was. That was at a point where Erik ten Hag was told by Man United's fitness coaching staff that Shaw and Malacia were both going to be fit for the second half of the season and that we didn't need Reguilon anymore. So that's what it was. So it was Alvaro Fernandez was loaned to Granada last summer. Then we got Reguilon in on loan. And we had Malacia and Shaw, and well, you know about all the injuries. I think that's what it was. And then obviously Shaw and Malacia are out for the rest of the season. Now he's done very well. We've got a buyback clause in there. Would he be as developed as he is now if he was playing at United? Well, maybe. And it frustrates a lot of United fans. Basically, Erik ten Hag and Man United, they put their eggs in the wrong basket. Ten Hag was let down by the coaching staff who said, Shaw and Malacia will be fit, and they absolutely won't. But also, Ten Hag may well have been able to put more faith in Fernandez, but then how would you have kept him happy with Shaw? I don't know. The whole thing stinks, and the fact that our left-back situation is one of our worst spots overall in the last, 12, 14, 18 months, makes that one sting a little bit more. How are you all feeling going into the game tonight? It's a strange one, isn't it? I do honestly feel that the Spurs game was the lowest point for Erik ten Hag. And again, I don't think that's doom-mongering. I think that's because it's the third season. We've seen results like that last season. We wanted to bury them. We didn't want to see them again. And we've had a good summer. And we've got a strong team. We've got Mainu, Ugarte and Bruno all playing together. And then even then, that team loses 3-0. And I called it the complete defeat because it was a complete defeat. Tonight's a tough one, man. Tonight's a tough one, right? I mean, of course, like Fabrizio, we all want to see a reaction. But you know what? And that's... I'm going to run through this comment now, actually. I was going to mention this later in the show, but I'll mention it now because I think it's a fair point. I'm also going to run through Laurie Whitwell's article that's just been released on sort of what the reaction has been kind of inside Manchester United and what the whispers and the murmurs are, right? Because this is the tweet that I put out this morning. I'd put it out every morning to say that the show is on. And somebody responded Ivan, saying, it's always the same. Ten Hag needs a big response. How about a time when responses aren't needed? And I think that's a really fair comment because I remember many a time last season where I think we all felt kind of similar to how we felt today. Like we need to see a big response. We need to see a collective responsibility. We need to see United playing as a team. We need to bury that last bad result, blah, 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 right? But that's a conversation that we've repeated a lot. And a lot of the times, did you see Patrice Evra on Sky Sports News? He said, I'm not really worried because so many times Ten Hag has been here at this point and there's been a response. And I've said to you on paper, I said it would not surprise me to see a completely different sort of United playing tonight compared to Spurs, which will half piss me off because I'm like, well, if you can do it tonight, why couldn't you have just done that a few days ago? And I personally think a lot of that is kind of part of it is players deciding when they want to give 100%. And when every player in every football team in the world, if every player gave 100% in every game, every single team would be better. And I'll be happy to see a response tonight, but I'll be frustrated that it took that humiliation against Spurs. And that's the thing. I think Erik ten Hag so far, as a manager, has been able to largely, not every single time, but largely, when he's on the brink, bring his team back up and put in a strong performance. And none's going to be even more impressive than the FA Cup final against City. It took everybody by surprise in the best way possible. And it just showed that if United players are just on it, then they can understand what Erik ten Hag is suggesting. And there has been so much said this week, and Benny McCarthy said it as well, right? This is Laurie Whitwell's article about, can Ten Hag pull himself back from the brink again? And this has been repeated, right? Talking about what INEOS are looking at. They see the work being done in training by Ten Hag and his revamped coaching team of Ruud van Nistelrooy, René Hake and Andreas Georgsson and appreciate the standard of tactical detail. It was this week where we heard Benny McCarthy saying, from a tactical perspective, Erik Ten Hag is one of the best that I've worked with. He's at the very top. But then you watch the games and you're like, but none of that translates. And it's either The Athletic and Laurie Whitwell's sources, they're all wrong. And Benny McCarthy's lying. And Erik Ten Hag, tactically, isn't very smart. Or it's just not translating onto the pitch. And is that because the coaching methods are wrong? Is that because the communication isn't there? And I personally think it's the communication. And I think that's the thing I'm really going to not hold on to, but that's the thing I'm going to sort of keep circling back to. Because there is that disconnect between what a lot of the reliable reporters that we trust are saying and what coaches who have worked with Erik Ten Hag and his staff are saying in Benny McCarthy to what we're seeing on the pitch. There's just that huge disconnect, right? And we go, and this I think is a big thing, right? I think someone sent a super chat there, and I'll speak about this. I think it's quite an important point. Rex, you're saying, wasn't Gary O'Driscoll head of the medical team at the time? The Shaw Malacia incident is a sackable offence alone. I don't know whether I think he came in December 2023, Gary O'Driscoll. I think so anyway. And it took him a while to settle. What else is he saying down here? But look, right. Jim Ratcliffe's going to be at the game on Sunday. I think is that the second game he's been at this season? I don't know. And look, Ryan, again, that's a really, really fair point. Communication doesn't make total sense because sometimes we look good. It felt like against Crystal Palace, we had a very specific style that was almost tailored to exploiting the gaps that Crystal Palace would have. And where do you stand on that? I think that's a really interesting point of football, really. There's two ways of approaching a game. I'll have this little conversation before we move on. We'll speak about Ratcliffe. Number one, you can go into a game thinking, we're the best team. I don't even really care about what the opposition does. We're just going to play our way. And we are so confident in the way that we are going to play that we know we're going to win. One way of doing it. The other way of doing it is looking at the team that you're playing and kind of tweaking to try and exploit the gaps that you think that they are going to be leaving. Which do you think is the best way to approach games of football? Because when you're at the very top, like City, you've only got one way of playing because you're the best. You don't need to do anything. But probably where United are right now, and this is what I think about, you want that United style. Ultimately, you want United to be like that, to be the absolute best team, and we don't have to change our tactics according to who we're playing because we're just the best. You have to change yours to play us. But where we are right now, as United, because we're far away from that, we kind of feels like we have to tweak and we have to change. And look, I can play your own way, but have contingency available. Team is saying we have to tweak at the moment, and maybe that's part of the problem. This whole concept of this United identity and style, it's because what works in one game, and it did work against Crystal Palace, right? It worked. If our finishing, ifs and buts and all that, if our finishing was what it should have been that first half, 2-3 up at half-time, cruising that game, we probably would have ended up 3-3. Siegs, you're saying Spurs play the same way? Yeah, Spurs do play the same way, and it's a half criticism of Postecoglou. Like, you'd be brilliant in a game, but then you might concede 6 in another game. Is that going to be what takes you? It's a really interesting debate, I think, that one. Tonight, Matthew, I'm going to run through my starting 11, but Jim Ratcliffe's going to be at the game on Sunday. And I think that's important, really, because it's a massive game. Villa is significantly bigger than the Porto game, right? Regardless of the result tonight, if you win or if you lose, the Villa game is the big one. Because it's the Premier League. Jim Ratcliffe's going to be there. Now, in the article again from The Athletic, is saying this, that Ten Hag's attention this week has been geared towards guiding his players to maintaining a strong mentality through setbacks. And I think we've all got our frustrations with this United team, and that for me is probably number one, I think. Now, as much as I'm pissed off at the fact that we can't play out from the back with the ball, as much as I'm annoyed that we're not controlling games of football, as much as I'm annoyed that we're not finishing games or just finishing chances, that's the thing that's constantly annoyed me more over these last few years, was how United deal with setbacks or don't deal with setbacks. Because in every game of football, there'll be a setback. An offside call that was tight. A VAR decision that was wrong, like Garnacho away at Arsenal. It's like every player gets like personally offended and their mind just switches off. So often, when United concede a goal, we then ended up, this has happened so many times under Erik Ten Hag. So many times we conceded a goal and then 5 minutes later we conceded another one. We have just never, ever dealt with setbacks until it reaches a point where Ten Hag's been towards the brink. And then all of a sudden there's a collective and we come back up. It's almost like Erik Ten Hag, and this is, again, this doesn't really make much sense when you think about who Ten Hag was in charge of with Ajax. Because it's almost like when it's that backs against the wall mentality and everyone thinks you're going to fail, it feels like Ten Hag, the evidence suggests that he's very good at communicating and getting that team to get a performance and a result. But when, and it's that buzzword for this third season, I'm holding on to it, expectation. When that expectation exists for United to deliver a performance, you're playing Fulham at home, or you're playing Bournemouth at home, or you're playing Forest at home, and the expectations that team will go out there and deliver, so often they can't deal with that expectation, that pressure. Akash, you're saying down there that is playing at Old Trafford a heavy burden? Playing at Old Trafford has always been a heavy burden. You're playing at Old Trafford. There are 75,000 people looking at your every touch, and when it's loud, it's loud. But you're a Manchester United player. That comes part and parcel. That's why you're on the big bucks. That's why you're playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. You want that expectation, but it just feels like we've never been able to deal with that under Erik Ten Hag. And tonight, there's not really expectation on Manchester United to win, I'll be honest. Let me see what the poll is saying. 800 votes, and you got 50% of you are saying United win, 20% are saying draw, and 30% are saying Porto win. But wow. Fire in your sort of opinions, and what do you expect to see tonight? Because it's really hard. I think it's hard to predict the starting 11, and I think it's hard to predict the style that we'll see tonight. Will you just see United drop into a massive deep block 5-4-1 and just try and hit on the odd counter-attack? Will you see United try and control the game of football? Will we play with Casemiro and Ugarte together, or will we just play with... It's hard. I'm going to see what you're saying down here in the comments. I'm legitimately saying United playing the mid-block, playing compact was at least good, but I haven't been seeing that in a while now. It's not that I want United to sit deep and have like a low block, but I want United to give up on the goddamn awful press. Like, just give up on it, all right? It is not working. Whatever you try, Erik, it's not working. The only way that it slightly worked was at the start of the season when we played the 4-2-4 and Mason Mount was there. But then we had no threat going forward. Like, just give up on the press. I know the concept of it is to be proactive, to win the ball when their rest defense isn't settled and you create more opportunities. Ultimately, that's what the best teams do. We're not that team yet. Just give up on the press. That's the one thing I would love to see tonight. Now, you might say, oh, that's, you're just giving the opposition the ball, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I don't care. They can have the ball if they're not threatening, as long as we can be explosive on the counter-attack as a unit. Johnny's saying how Porto do in the league. Pretty sure Porto are second behind Sporting Lisbon. They lost that game 2-0, I think it was. Gyökeres scored in that one. Andy's saying Ten Hag's going to go all in, strongest squad. I mean, that's not a question. Of course it'll be a strongest squad, right? Let's run through a few things here, right? That's the arena for tonight. I feel sorry for a load of the fans. Like, I was going to pull this up later, but I'll use Alfie's example. Sorry, Alfie. Have you seen the problems the United fans have had getting to Porto? Took him 25 hours. The sports breaks flight, the one that goes in and out, they've been delayed at Manchester Airport for I think it's going to be 8 hours by the time they take off. And when they land, they're getting a bus straight to Porto. Oh dear. You'd be fuming. Absolutely fuming. But yeah. This is what Porto's manager said about United, right? Actually, no, that's not what he said. This is about injuries. Speaking about Mason Mount. Wah. Mason Mount and Anthony for 140 million. I think they're easily going to be held up as the two examples of poor spending under Erik ten Hag. For 140 million pounds, you should have 3 elite level starting 11 quality players who change the trajectory of your team. Like Mason Mount, I understood because I'll cast my mind anyway back to when we signed Mason Mount, and people will probably clip me up now because obviously hindsight is a wonderful thing. When we signed Mason Mount, I knew where we were heading. 1 number 6, 2 number 8s. Be proactive. Have that high press. But it did not work. I understood the logic of signing him, but the tactic did not work. Ten Hag got it massively, massively wrong. So Mason Mount, I think Mason Mount could still be a decent squad player for United, but I don't particularly think he's ever going to be more than that. And for 60 million, that's just ridiculous. Let alone the 80 million we spent on Anthony. Now, travelling squad here tonight. There's no surprises in there. There's a couple of good inclusions. Mainu's fit to be included in the squad after what looked like a potential hamstring injury against Spurs, but he's all right, which is good. And I'm really happy for Dan Gore, man. I'm really happy for Dan Gore. Dan Gore is somebody who, if you've all been following United People's TV for long enough, you know that's a player I really, really rate. He's now captained the under-21s, played the other day, I think, against Hertha Berlin. And probably because of Mason Mount's injury, Gore has got the opportunity to be part of the travelling squad. Congratulations to him. Last season, I think it was a loan at Port Vale. It didn't really work out for him. Maybe there'll be a spot in the squad. I don't know. Carl, you're asking, do you think that Ten Hag will try Ugarte at number 6? I'll run through my starting 11 soon. Let's run through what the manager said, right? In fact, I want to run through this first, right? So yesterday, Man United's flight was delayed. It sort of circled around Porto because of the fog. They couldn't land. And Man United's press conference was delayed. And Diogo Dalot was supposed to speak alongside Erik ten Hag. But it's just, I mean, look, it's even got a community note, right? It's got a community note there. Samuel Luckhurst is a man whose career is using words. Putting words in sentences. That is his job. Knows exactly what he's doing there. I mean, I laugh, but it's not really funny. And he got called out on it hard. Diogo Dalot was not speaking with Erik ten Hag at the pre-Porto press conference. Worded as, Diogo Dalot is now not speaking with Ten Hag. It's like... Nathan is saying, why is Harry and Mass not in the squad? I'll go back to Laurie Whitwell's article here. There you go. This is exactly what... This is the reason, right? This is what the coaching staff feel. Harry Mass, who did well in United's pre-season tour, again showed his technical ability at left-back in that 1-1 draw against Hertha Berlin, but at 17 and a second-year scholar, he is regarded as not yet ready for the physicality of first-team football. The step up from the youth competition to the Premier League is huge, and despite United's difficulties, Ten Hag will continue to use experienced players in his squad. Ten Hag is certainly not trusted. I think Ten Hag has done a lot right with a lot of youth team players, but he's certainly not trusted youth team players at left-back. And I think that's probably because of the importance that he places in that inversion of the left-back and the full-back roles. Why he likes Diogo Dalot so much. Man, Diogo, jeez. That was a bad performance that he had. He needs to correct himself. And it'll be a big game. There's so many United players tonight that have links back to Portugal. Dalot played at Porto. Bruno played at Sporting. Ugarte played at Sporting. Casemiro had a loan spell from Real Madrid back to Porto. So that's both players. There's a lot of links. Benfica and Victor Lindelof, who I hope we'll never see tonight. But Porto's manager, Vitor Bruno, saying, look, we're not underestimating United tonight. And you should never underestimate any team. United definitely do that with complacency. It's not like I think I saw a couple of you saying this in the comments here. Like I think John, you might have said one. I don't really mind if as long as United win by any means necessary tonight. Personally, that's not what I think. I don't think maybe they do it. But who am I bloody kidding? Football is a results-driven business, right? So if we do get 2 scrappy wins against Porto and Villa, then I suppose it will delay things. But I want to see a performance tonight, man. I want to see this United team actually deliver. And I don't mean play Porto off the park and play scintillating, sensational football. I mean, like, look like you give a toss. If there's a 50-50, go in hard on that 50-50. If there's a duel, scrap to win the duel. If there's a second ball, go for the second ball. And that lack of aggression has just become almost synonymous with United, really. You look at Martinez, who I think is overly aggressive, has been over-aggressive this season, trying to compensate for probably the frustration that he's seeing everywhere else, and it becomes a weakness of his game. Now, this was my predicted starting 11 for tonight. The changes that I made. I put Casemiro in midfield with Ugarte. And I put those two together. And you can see that I've dropped this team a little bit deeper, right? Sod the front press. I don't want to see United trying to win the ball anywhere inside that sort of circle, right? I don't want to see United trying to win the ball high up the pitch. That is not the priority tonight. The priority tonight is working as a team. Is working as an actual unit, right? I don't want to see that. And I do want to see United. It's almost like a 4-5-1. You can push Rashford a little bit further up there. But that, for me, is the starting 11 that I want to see. Garnacho, Ahmad, and Rashford as a front 3. Xerxes, you could well use him, but I think he's more... Xerxes would be better if you want to play through the lines and play slightly slower. I just don't think that's going to be the style tonight. I want to see Casemiro alongside Ugarte in midfield as a pair. Mainu, he had a hamstring concern against Spurs. There's no way in hell that I'm starting Mainu tonight if I'm Erik Ten Hag. Might happen. People are going to be like, I'll bench Bruno, blah, 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 blah. You are not benching Bruno in this game. Bruno is one player who's across the course of Ten Hag's tenure delivered for him. Tim, you're saying, why Rashford? I don't know if Højlund's 100% fit. I mean, he isn't. He's not starting games for us. I don't know what to expect from United tonight. Right? Aaron, you're saying you think that we'll see Eriksen instead of Casemiro? We may well do. All right, that's not impossible. Eriksen for Bruno. I mean, maybe that could happen, but it's not going to happen. Of course, Bruno Fernandes has links back to Sporting Lisbon as well. So Porto is a massive rival for him. So it means a lot for him tonight. It should mean a fair amount for Casemiro to come back. Like if you want to sort of pull those things out from an ego perspective, from a selfish individual perspective, which may actually benefit the team. Bruno going back to Porto, his old rivals that he hated with Sporting Lisbon, he will not want to get trounced. So on an individual egotistical basis, he'll probably put in more effort tonight. Not that he doesn't, but you know what I mean. Same with Casemiro, going back to a club where he was sent on loan from Real Madrid, where he developed and then obviously went back to Real Madrid and became the best player in the world. If he starts, he wouldn't want their lasting memory to be him being crap for United. Delo going back to the club he spent on loan. We spent time on loan. Every game should mean a lot, Ryan. All right? But clearly it doesn't for these United players. Clearly it doesn't. And I don't know what triggers it. I don't know what brings it on. I don't know what makes it turn off. But something triggers it. And with Ratcliffe going to Villa on Sunday, they're two massive games, man. They really are. Now, fire in your predictions in the comments. I'll look at the poll quickly one more time. Got 1,100 votes in. Thank you all for engaging, as always. And thank you all for commenting. So it's not been... Boy, can I just, I know that there's this, conception of fan channels thriving in negativity, right? It could not be more opposite on United People's TV. It's clear as day. You will never see a match reaction from me getting pointed at and laughed at by opposition fans, right? And truth be told, that's what happens with Goldbridge, and that's what happens with Saeed and stuff like that. Those match reactions, the third, if not more, the people watching it, they're watching it because they're going, "Ooh, I'm enjoying this. Let me get my popcorn out." I'm a miserable git when United lose. No one cares about that. So United People's TV has never thrived in negative situations, and it won't ever. And I want United to be back to... Jeez. I think my prediction tonight was... I think it was a 1-1 draw. I think that's what it was. I can't remember, though. I think it was a 1-1 draw. Rob, you're saying if Casemiro can't perform in slower European games, he's completely lost it. Dude, I don't expect tonight to be massively slow. In fact, quite the opposite. If Porto have done their research on United, they will know that when the game speeds up, they'll probably be able to get to United. Bruno and Rashford should be sold. They are toxic to the whole team. Okay, cool. That's on you. Well, what else are we saying? I don't know. Look, Erik knows full well. Erik knows full well how big these two games are. Right? After Spurs and after what we've seen last season and what we dealt with and what we put up with last season, and then the FA Cup, and then we've had the summer, it felt like I've already done my videos, already had my conversations. We needed to see the development, all right? We have to see progress. And this season has been anything but that so far. Fleeting moments, fleeting 45 minutes of footballs or a particular moment or goal. But we've got to... And look, this is the thing. For me, it's not just about Ten Hag and this United team coming back from the brink and going, oh, geez, we saved ourselves and drowning there again. It's about we have to turn, all of a sudden we have to go, boom, all right, we're here, we're on. And I question whether that will happen. I've lost faith in Ten Hag's United right now. I don't think it's far from impossible that United completely turn up tonight. But that won't be enough in isolation. Follow that up against Aston Villa. Deal with the international break. Follow that up against Brentford. Follow that up with whoever's after that, Chelsea. And actually build some consistency. Stop with the 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 1 step forward, 4 steps back. That's why United have never progressed. That's the cycle. It's a little bit forward and then a little bit back. It has to be 5% forward. And tonight, we need to see a performance, man. I think so anyway. I'm Potato, what are you saying? 4 of our back 5 now played under Erik Ten Hag and or with each other before, and they seem confused. It's just United still can't play out from the back with the ball. United still don't really look like they want the ball, some of the players. Finishing just isn't there. The press, I'm telling you, the press is at the core of so many of our structural problems. I'm going to read a few of your comments out down here, and then we'll wrap it up for today. The more we sign players to improve, the more the team becomes worse. It's start of the season, we were decent to a certain point. Fulham was frustrating, but Bruno should have scored 2 before Xerxes ultimately scored. And then we've had the Brighton game. And that was frustrating and so unlucky. That's only going to happen once this season. Your own player accidentally getting an offside to stop a goal going in. With Xerxes and Garnacho. And then the Liverpool humiliation. And then we can be clinical. We scored 7 against Barnsley. But that was Barnsley. We knocked 3 past Southampton. That was a really good game. Then we can't beat Crystal Palace despite a dominant first half. We couldn't make it happen in the second half. The players switched off. Palace came back into the game and the second half was theirs. It's just need to see something different and consistently different every single week. I just want to see United. That's what it has to be from now on, in my opinion. If Ten Hag is going to remain and have the trust of INEOS, is every single week you look at it and you go, all right, see what you're doing here. Not, okay, so this is completely different to what... So that he's in a different position. Last week he was here, but okay, what are they doing now? That can't happen. That's not a game model. That's not what INEOS are working towards. JC, that's a nice little message from you there. Super chat, say happy birthday to Akash. I didn't know his birthday, Akash. Sorry. Happy birthday to you, man. Look, let's see what happens tonight. I'll be here with my match reaction. There is 0 point me doing a lunchtime video. You'll see the content has been... I've sort of stepped back a couple of times this week. I don't like to put videos out unless there's a kind of a purpose to it. I'll be here with my match reaction. And I hope I'm going to be happy. I think there needs to be a performance. I think the fans deserve a performance. Especially everyone that's made that journey to Porto. My word. That is a hell of a journey. But look, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for the conversation. Let's see. Let's look at the poll one more time. 1,200 votes. 50% of you are saying United win. 33% are saying Porto win. And 18% are saying draw. I'm with the 18%. I think it'll be a draw. I hope I'm wrong. I hope we win 5-0. Let's find out later on. Take it easy, everyone.